Hello everyone. So this is going to be the first video of the Algebra 1 series. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about squares and square roots. So let's get started with squares. So what is a square? So let me go ahead and write something out for you. So we have this here. So what is this here? So 4 and then a little 2 above it. So what does that mean? So this is what we would call 4 squared. So what does that mean? So an exponent, so this is an exponent. So this is an exponent is comprised of two different things. One, right here, we have the base, and then this orange, we have the exponent itself. So when the exponent is 2, that's when we say it's squared. So what exactly does this mean? So what is 4 with the 2 above it? So 4 squared. What is that equal to? So a squared, whenever you square a number, that's that same number multiplied by itself. So we just multiplied the base by itself. So in this case, as we said right above here, we saw that the base was 4. So that means we're going to multiply the base by itself. So we're going to do 4 times 4. So the base times the base, 4 times 4 is equal to 16. Meaning that 4 squared would be equal to 16. So let's try one more. So let's do 5 squared now. See, let's try this again. So we have this there, that's the 2. The 2 would be the exponent, and the 5 would be the base. So how would we calculate this? So let's go ahead. So as I just said before, we calculate a square by multiplying the base. And remember, the base was 5 in this case. We multiply the base by itself. So let's go ahead and do that. So we multiply the base by itself. So we do 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So that's what 5 squared is. So let's quickly go over some of the starting from 0 to 6. Let's quickly go over what those exponents are. So we're going to be working more and more with squares in the future. So let's quickly go ahead. So 0 squared. So what is 0 squared? So remember, the base times the base, so 0 times 0. And 0 times anything is 0, so it doesn't matter 0 times 0. It's still going to be 0. 1 squared. Let's do the base times the base. 1 times 1 is equal to 1. And then we have 2 squared. Base times the base, so 2 times 2. What is that equal to? 2 times 2 is 4. Then 3 squared. That's the base times the base, which is equal to 9. Okay, 4 squared. What is that equal to? 4 times 4, which is equal to 16. So let's do 2 more, just so that we have a good foundation. So 5 squared, what is that equal to? That's 5 times 5. What's 5 times 5? That is equal to 25. And then finally, let's do one last one. 6 squared, what is that equal to? That's 6 times 6. And what's 6 times 6? 6 times 6 is 36. So these are some just basic things that we should try to look at. So squaring a number is not hard at all. It's just multiplying that same number by itself. So that should be pretty easy. So let's go on to a little bit more difficult concept, but it's still very easy. So now, you've probably learned about negative numbers, but can we square negative numbers? Let's see what happens when we square a negative number. Let's take negative 4, for example. Are we able to square this? Okay, so let's do this. So let's say negative 4 squared, right? So remember what I said, what I've always been saying? I've said multiply the base by itself. So what is the base? Is it 4? No. Remember, we have this negative here. So everything here. So I'll put parentheses around it. Everything there needs to be squared. So everything there needs to be multiplied by itself, which means that negative 4 needs to be multiplied by itself. What's negative 4 times negative 4? So we know 4 times 4 is 16. And then we have a negative times a negative, which is equal to a positive. So positive 16 is the same exact thing as 16. So meaning that negative 4 squared is equal to 16. So let's try one more. So now let's try squaring negative 5. And be careful of where, so these parentheses are actually very, very important when we're doing, when we're working with negatives. Because this here is a very, very different thing than this. So be careful of what you're doing. But for the sake of right now, we're just focusing on this here, on this. So negative 5 squared. So what is negative 5 squared? So negative 5 squared is equal to negative 5 multiplied by itself. So negative 5 times negative 5. So what's 5 times 5? That's 25. And the negative times the negative is the positive. So we have positive 25, which is just equal to 25. So that's a little bit about negative numbers, about squaring negative numbers. So now let's go to something else. So now let's go the opposite way. So now we've been multiplying a number by itself to get but we've been squaring numbers. But now let's go the opposite way. Let's start square rooting. So let's go ahead and start with square roots. So what is a square root? So in the past, for the past few minutes, we've been going over squares. So what was a square, remember? Multiplying the base by itself is equal to 9, right? However, how can we go back? So in order to go back, so to go backwards, instead of multiplying this out, like we did here, 3 times 3, let's go backwards. So this is what we call a square root. So right here, what I have here, what I drew here, that's called a square root sign. So let me explain a little bit about what a square root sign does. So let's say I have the square root of 9. So that means that a number times itself, so a number times itself has to equal this number right here, this number right there. So what is that number right there underneath that square root symbol? That's a 9. So that means that question mark, so that number multiplied by itself has to equal 9. So, okay, how can we simplify this? So that means that the square root of 9 is equal to what number, when you multiply by itself, gives you 9? So look, we did it right here actually. We did 3 times 3, which is equal to 9. So that means that the square root of 3, square root of 9 is equal to 3 times 3. Square root, is equal to 3 times 3, right? So we know that this is 3 times 3 is equal to square root of 9. However, that means that then, so the square root is basically just one of these. So what is that question mark? That's what that square root is basically asking for. So what is that question mark? So remember, we just saw right here that question mark is 3. So that means that the square root of 9 would be 3. Okay, let's try one more. So let's do square root of 16. So remember, what does this mean? Square root of 16 means a number, so you get this number here, is equal to a question mark times a question mark. So 16, so I'll rewrite that for you. So 16 is equal to a question mark times a question mark. So what is that question mark? What number, when you multiply it by itself, is equal to 16? Well, that's 4, because 16 is equal to 4 times 4. So that means that square root of 16 is equal to square root of 4 times 4. 4 times 4. And remember, in order for a square root answer, we just want what that question mark is. And right here, what was that question mark? That question mark was 4, meaning that the square root of 16 would be equal to 4. Okay, just so that we get a little bit extra practice, let's do one final one before we move on. Square root of 25. So what question marks, what two numbers, when you multiply, what number, when you multiply it by itself, gives you 25? That would be 5. 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So meaning square root of 25 is equal to square root 5 times 5. And remember, the answer to a square root is just that one question mark. So that'll just be square root 25 would be 5. Okay, hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. But before we end this, I want to quickly go over one little thing that I think would be really helpful to all of us. So here, so this is a little chart I got for you. So this is a very useful chart. So let me explain a little bit about what this is. So right here, so we have here, so 0. So what this is saying, so it's saying 0 squared. What is that equal to? That's equal to 0. What is 1 squared equal to? That's equal to 1. What is 2 squared equal to? That's equal to 4. What is 3 squared equal to? That's equal to 9. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. 3 squared is equal to 9. 4 squared is equal to 16. 5 squared is equal to 25. 6 squared is equal to 36. Because remember, all of these, we're just multiplying it by itself. So for example, 6 squared, let's pick 6 squared. So that's just 6 times 6, which is equal to 36. And that's how we got that. That's squared. And we can keep on doing it. 7 squared, 49. 8 squared, 64. And so on and so on. And there's one little thing as well. The square, remember, we can square root that. So let's take the square root of 25. So right here, square root of 25. So that's equal to square root of 5 times 5. And remember, square root is just that one of those. Sorry about that. So square root is just one of those. So one of these is just 5, meaning square root of 25 would be 5. Look at that. That's a little bit of a coincidence. We see 5 here and a 5 here. So remember, you can reverse those. You can square a number and then you can find the square root of a number. So and then yeah, this chart is pretty useful. So I would say that we should try to the 0 through 12 here that I've started here, just right here, there. That's going to be really important. That's what we're going to be working with, and that's going to really be important for school and for other work as well. So I would say try to look at those, try to memorize those from 0 up to 12. Square those, and then yeah. Other than that, that's going to be the end of today's video, and we will see you next time. Thank you.